Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, good afternoon, viewers from around the world. This is Political Animals. My name is Afolabi, and I'm here with Lerato from South Africa and Mustafa Jinadu, all the way from Washington, D.C. Mustafa, how you doing?
You're here. This is getting closer to summer. How are you, Afolabi? And I'm Lagos. Is this still raining?
Yes, I'm all right. In fact, it's getting ready to start raining again. We're in the middle
Yeah.
of the rainy season in
And
Lagos.
I and I think Lorato, how are you? I think it's getting close to winter your side, right? Yeah.
yeah, no. It is winter here. It
Yeah, I
is
can tell
winter.
because you got your hoodie on. It's summertime, but I always wear these things just for design.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Actually, we were just talking about that, it's been flooding here in the south.
Wow.
Um,
It's
it's
weird though. There's a lot of rain everywhere. I don't know, the ecology is changing. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No. I think global warming is really showing us up to say, hey, it's here.
Yeah.
So it should be very interesting to see. Um, I mean, what the responses are like to that
There's
in terms
climate
of
Yeah.
change. It's climate change.
It's
A lot
yeah,
of the
it,
stuff we
it's
do.
going to be, I think, no matter what country, because sometimes I tend to be in favor of BRICS, but it doesn't seem like there's any government in the world that's taking this seriously, and they're looking for short-term profits, which is very symptomatic of capitalism, even in countries like China and
yeah,
Russia. Those countries have socialistic values, but at the end of the day, they're not taking it seriously, especially China, which consumes a lot and adds a lot of pollution, and the US. It'll never be said that I'm taking sides. I'm just telling you like I see it. And it looks like the politicians all over the world are businessmen and they're not taking seriously. What do you think, Lorato? Then we'll go to Afolabi. Yeah.
yeah. No. I don't think there is a serious enough take on it. And the worrying thing is that the effects of climate change are felt by the global south the most. I'm not
Yes.
saying
Yes.
that we're not seeing the effects of it in the west and in the north, but they are more financially stable
Yeah.
to deal with it than we would be here. Because I mean, the situation in Cape Town and in the Western Cape and in the Eastern Cape with the flooding is very heavy,
Yeah.
especially for people living in the squatter camps. So this question of an urgent need to sort of address the housing and where people live in terms of land, where it's not so flood prone and things like that. Even the idea of building the kind of houses that we build, if they are flood resistance, if they're in the east, they have to be hurricane or wind resistant. And we haven't been thinking about those kinds of things. Um, and actually, when we start to take this conversation, perhaps to something like electioneering, which has been happening recently, there hasn't been a lot of the. I read all those manifestos. Very few of them spoke about ecology
No.
in as strong a sense as you would have thought about. Very few of them spoke about the green economy, even though I think the ANC or the state as a whole has been making moves towards becoming a little bit more greener.
Yeah.
I saw that they launched a powering plant, I think in George, or one of the harbors in the Cape, that has installed solar powered. It's becoming solar powered. So they're going off grid, which is a great thing to see
Yeah. Yeah.
that the state is making those kinds of moves.
And I
Um,
think go continue. Sorry for cutting in. And thank you for bringing this up. This was spontaneous that you brought it up, and it's very important. Continue. Yeah. Yeah.
no, yeah. So it should be interesting to see that kind of rollout being more widespread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so while the conversation still sort of hangs in the balance in terms of which direction this particular country will go, when you think speaking about post-election conversation, um, the the climate situation sort of seems to put us at a state of emergency, you know, to say that there needs to be quick action. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's very worrying that what we are seeing actually in terms of the conversation, which is what we were talking about with Afolabi earlier, with this idea of a government of national unity, is that we're still struggling with issues of egos and you know, that kind of a thing, and people are sticking to their camps as opposed to coming to finding some kind of middle ground between the left and the right, as it were. Yeah, to sort of move us ahead. So it's
So what
insane
I
to
think,
see.
based on what you said, I think the left and the right, as opposed to the center, can both agree that they believe in cultivation of the land. It's just that the right believes that it belongs to the elite. But I think this points to the fact that South Africa and all countries, left and right, I think left needs to do it more. Left is theoretical. We need to have a paradigm in which our countries are agrarian and we cut down on industrial growth. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean,
Hold on, Lorato, I paused for a second. What do you think, Lorato? Because the point I'm making is that in order for this to work, it means that we have to start taking ecology seriously, which means we have to reduce industrial growth. But countries like China want to continue pushing it. So what I'm pointing at is that we need to reduce growth, but in this capitalistic Western world in which competition and ambition are very powerful, we believe we need more steel, we need more factories, we need more of this and that. But my thing is sometimes we have to be less ambitious and decentralize our governments and focus more on ecologically sound communities. What do you think? That's what I meant.
Yeah. But I think economy will always be growth based, which is
I'm against growth actually
a
because it
problem.
leads to exhaustion and to other problems. But continue. Yeah. We need growth in fields like healthcare and education, but we don't need to have the level of materialism we have. Like in America, people who make $6,000.
Finance,
Yeah, people who and finance people who make $6,000 a month in the U.S. are broke. There's no
planet,
there's no need
you
for
know.
that because there's not
Hello?
inflation. Continue. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I know within what people would call a radicalist left ideology, there is an emergent um, argument for degrowth
Yeah. I think that needs
as
to
an
be added to the
economic
left
policy,
because the
you
left
know,
is very good with theory.
and I think that's
Go ahead. Sorry to cut in front of you. Yeah.
sure, and yeah, and possibly it's still a lot more theoretical than it is in practice.
Yeah.
Except though some of the practices that I think are there are things that we can always see in the indigenous, you know,
Yes.
communities.
To pause you for a second, what I was about to say is that, and I feel like you can agree, in Nigeria, you have homelands and places where people used to make food, and they're not growing, but people eat and they are okay. You understand what I'm saying, Afolabi?
Sure, absolutely. You're right about
Yeah.
that.
And just going back to what he wants to say about the indigenous. Continue. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, go back, Lorato. You can continue, Lorato. Yeah. Is he paused or something? Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
He was
I think
contemplating. He was lost in contemplation. Continue.
no, no. I was still listening because your line was cutting out a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think indigenous communities have really put some kind of uh, groundwork. You know, when we look at the way in which they used to deal with different kinds of things, with trees, with
Plants.
I mean, when you think about, for example, the fires in the west of the states,
Yes,
at the West
California and
Coast.
places. Yeah.
And when you listen to some of those indigenous communities that used to occupy those lands, they'll tell you how they used to plant trees around that space to manage those kinds of disasters.
Yeah.
And the EPA basically has not been listening to any of those.
Yeah. And also they
Um,
had sophisticated channels of irrigation to keep things going well. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So the issues of growth that are mainly capitalistic and economic are causing us a lot of environmental harm.
Yes, yes. And
Um,
also maybe I don't know if this is true. I'm just making a theory. Do you think a lot of the problems in South Africa is done to the extensive mining that's been done in those areas too, that's messing up the ground and everything? Maybe I'm wrong with the flooding and stuff and the soil. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of contributing factors. Mining is one of them, and secondly, the idea of access to land for people to live in
Yes.
that is actually habitable, right? Because we spoke the last time about the RDP.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that one of the biggest challenges that the government had when trying to provide people with housing was they couldn't access proper land,
Yeah.
and
And
the
also
land
very
that
quickly, our friend Salim talked about that. It's a difficult thing. I don't know how we can do it, but he's saying that in Mpumalanga, surrounded by everybody, there's Boers who have farms. I'm not against the Boers; they have those lands, but now
yeah
it's causing cramping in other parts of Mpumalanga, and it leads to crime and a lot of decay. Continue, yeah,
yeah. So it also has to do with the idea of centralized um, economies, like the way that cities are planned. So
yeah,
what you get then is a sense of like an urban sprawl from the city center, because people want to be closer to the economic centers. Um,
yeah. I think it's
and there
probably better to
isn't.
have satellite cities with smaller economic centers, and then have the central one with the main. But to take the pressure off of each satellite city, we need to spread out the if they want to do that. Maybe that's just a theory that I just came up with right now. I don't know what you think about that, but continue. Thank you. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I think that the economic planning in line with ecology has to sort of come together with
yeah,
with with
eh,
with what development has to be. It
yes.
doesn't necessarily have to be all urbanization,
Yes, it
because
has to be a certain balance between urbanization and stuff. And even within urban areas, we need to have more collective farming and greenhouses and things like that. They tried to do that
exactly
in the US. They
the
tried to
urban
do that in
spaces
California.
need more
Yeah,
green spaces,
yeah,
and
yeah.
sort of the rural spaces need to have more infrastructure,
Urban.
you know.
And you just broke it down. And I want to thank you because we're thinking in real time now, and this is one of the conclusions that we're coming to now. Very good theory, and thank you very much for your in-depth. Continue for a few more minutes. It seems like this is the Lorato show. Lorato's on fire right now. Continue, sir.
No,
I thought it's
no,
good
man,
because I think Lorato was more prepared than we were. Continue. Go. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Continue.
No, no. I mean, it's just what I mean. I've been sort of consuming news,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I want to say you're very
and
brilliant because you're able to synthesize things and come up with very good ideas. Continue.
yeah, and this is what I've been seeing as problems that are propping up. Of course, we could look at it as, um, for example, perhaps as I said jokingly to Afolabi earlier, that the weather is crazy like this maybe because the ANC gods have gone crazy. Um,
The gods must be crazy. Old movie, right?
yeah. Because the weather started changing the day after the election,
Maybe.
or the
Who
day
knows?
after.
We don't know what our ancestors have been brewing. I'm serious. I'm not joking either.
Yeah. So those kinds of things started happening sort of like a day or two after the elections, that the
Yeah,
rain started coming, the cold front started hitting.
yeah,
Um, and when the cold front hits, then we have an energy crisis. Fortunately, we're still good with power. The power utility says we should still be good to
I think
withstand.
bandwidth is being affected though, bandwidth, because our traffic has not been so good on YouTube. Continue.
Exactly. So there's all these structural problems that are becoming apparent
Yeah,
that actually need to be addressed quite
yeah.
urgently. And now you have this kind of like
So
um,
go ahead. Sorry,
hung state.
continue. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
you
what,
have this hung state of parliament where we don't know
yeah.
where the balance is going to go.
So we'll lead to a change the subject. We're going to continue with what you're talking about, ecology, because it's important in future sessions. It seems like we can never get away from the political. But what I want to say is we can use that as a pivot. ANC is in the balance, and they're talking about. I'm going to start with Afolabi too, because I want Afolabi to get some time, and then we'll come back to you, Lorato. They're in the middle of and they're even talking about
Sure.
coalescing with DA instead of negotiating with EFF and MK, which to me shows their true colors, and I think it's very blasphemous. And my thing is that we're hanging in the balance. If you talk with EFF and you talk with MK, they haven't. It's I call it the potential for a more naturalistic South Africa, where traditional rule and everything is still respected, but also socialism is respected with the EFF. But also we have to be practical, and I think that will lead us to the conclusion that we need to have a balance between agriculture and development and everything, looking out for our societies. But I think it's rooted in education. So I think the problem with ecology and everything in Africa is that resources are not being put into education and into grassroots movements where everybody's well educated on things like BRICS, on things like the ecology. Because BRICS and the ecology, I won't say that both of those things are actually consistent, but every African kid, whether they live in the rural area or in the city, needs to have an ultimate education. But our resources now are being 70% of South Africa's GDP goes to foreign corporations, and the rest goes to
Yeah.
politicians. So the thing, like what you said weeks ago, is that every citizen should be well informed about BRICS, about the ecology, about everything. And then once we have an informed society, then we can have a proper revolution. I'm going to come back to you on that, but I want to see what Afolabi's thoughts are also. Thank you.
Yes, I quite agree with you. First of all, I want to start on the climate change issue. Like much as you
Yeah.
said, we have to slow down a little bit on our industrialization, but at the same time, we have to begin to look at alternative sources of energy that don't deplete the ozone layer, because the prime reason for global warming is the depletion of the ozone layer. It's becoming thinner and thinner, and the weather is getting very unpredictable. So, and the areas, the policies we are supposed to put in place to ensure that these things happen are not being done. They are only interested in the flaring of gas, fossils the income that comes from fossils. A lot of these governments are not just, they don't just care about the environment really, and that has to change. And then on the issue of education, quite a good number of South Africans are
Sorry, Afolabi,
educated.
your volume is a little bit low. Maybe you have your phone. Continue though.
Okay, so I said on the issue of education, a good number of South Africans are educated. But the discouragement is that once they get out of school, they start looking for jobs. And that's one area where I feel the ANC have failed catastrophically. In as much as they need to prioritize education of South African citizens, a good number of them too are not empowered and they don't have jobs. And then I was talking about the issue of climate change. I said primarily what is responsible for climate change is the depletion of the ozone layer. And most of the fossil fuels that are being deposited into the atmosphere is what causes it. So there has to
Yeah.
be global policies to control
Yeah.
this. Instead of thinking of the income being generated by most of these economies from these things, they should prioritize the policies that control and create a more balanced ecosystem, more biodiversity than just what comes in and politicians pocket from it. That's basically my
Yes,
view on all
thank
of
you.
this.
Yeah. Lorato, I hope that's a beer you're drinking, but knowing you, it's probably water.
No, it's not beer. It's not beer.
I have wine. Or no, it's what do they call it? Ukompos. What is the South African word for beer? You know that song by everybody.
Umqombothi.
Yeah, come and taste my. I'm just kidding, but no. Thank you very much, Afolabi. You had a great point. So the ease of the ozone, and I still think that a lot of the mining that's going on in Congo and in South Africa and in Botswana, it's messing up our sediment, and it's partly the cause of some of the flooding. So this goes to the fact that within Africa, we need to educate our children and make them critical thinkers, and also make them in line with Ubuntu and with ancestral. I even have a new word, not just ancestral worship, but descendant worship. Descendant worship means that you want your children to inherit a
No,
land that's very good.
yeah, I think what you're mentioning is more like a cosmological way of thinking,
Yeah,
right?
but we need to have
And
it to deal
and
with.
there,
Yeah,
there are like some other cosmological thoughts that I
yeah.
suppose are, let's say, like pseudoscientific, right?
Like
Where
yeah, like Scientology. Yeah,
yeah, where there is this idea that the digging out of minerals from the ground, um, like I mean the amount of gold that you find, for example, in the reserves in London and in New York and
it's crazy.
uh,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Fort Knox and all those things are actually metals that used to magnetically draw energy to the south, and now they no longer do.
So
Um,
it's taking away
and
an
therefore,
energetic force, yes. And also,
yeah,
even
yeah,
Marx said
therefore
it.
the magnetic energies of the earth are out of balance, which is why you find,
Yes,
some of
thank you.
the things.
And I'm going to
This
say
is what,
something in line with
yeah,
that. So we all knew that the people in Mali already knew about the Sirius star. They knew about the Sirius
sure,
star.
sure, sure.
And that takes a high level of cosmology, but it takes a high level of analyzing patterns in the sky. So it's mathematical. So what we're saying is that the Congo system, Kongo, no, I'm talking about Congo, the Congo
Sure, sure.
system. You remember that book that we read some years ago?
Yeah, the
It's
one
not just
Congo.
it's not just a cosmological system. It's a scientific system that's based on hundreds of thousands of years of the observation of the ecology, of the way the mind works and dream works. And it's a valid scientific system, unlike things like Scientology. So we have to have faith in our systems and our sangomas and our witch doc and our medicine men and also our scholars. We had everything. We had Timbuktu in Nigeria. Then in Nigeria, we had a wall which is longer than the China Wall. You know that, Afolabi, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
The British took it down. We had pyramids in Igbo land. So I'm going to get back to you now,
Yeah,
Lorato. So the point is that I just want to defend our cosmological system. Continue. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that cosmological system adheres to this idea that you were speaking about not only venerating ancestors as those who came before, but also as those who come after us,
And
because
also, I
those.
think our descendants are still the continuation of the ancestors because it's a
Yeah,
continuation. So,
yeah.
and we need to respect them. We need to respect our children.
Ancestry yeah,
I always
yeah.
say my son is wiser than me, and I listen to him. Continue. Yeah.
For sure. Ancestry in that sense becomes multi-directional, or
Yeah.
dual directional.
Non-linear. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And and I think, when we speak about this idea of an informed populace and an informed people, it sort of leads us back to this idea um, of cultural awareness and cultural consciousness as
Yes.
as the base, especially of this idea of a unified cultural or unified spiritual.
Yes, yes. So what I want to say
Uh,
is we're running out of time. So what you pointed out, there's a little bit of a conflict between culture and political and analytical,
yeah,
or
yeah,
it appears. So we need to remember guys like Cabral, who was more political, but we need to go back to our indigenous knowledge systems and find a way to marriage them together. So now what we need is a very complex system, but it has to be dealt with set up by elders or middle-aged people, and we teach the kids, but we
yeah.
teach them
But
intuitively, and it's very difficult. But we have to identify and go back to all sources of African knowledge. What do you think,
yeah,
Lorato?
yeah. But you mentioned Cabral. I think Cabral, more than political, he was very practical.
Yes, yes,
Um, because of what he studied before he got into political struggle. The idea of
yeah,
agronomy,
yeah,
and ecology, as we started the conversation with, I think he was very much involved in this idea of even what kind of plants are agreeable with
yeah.
the land in which
And I want to add one thing.
people have to practice
I want to
agriculture.
add one thing. He used military as one of his means, but he wasn't a violent man. But he realized as a practical thing, every society has to have people who defend it. Continue. Sankara was a little bit like that too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying he was a lot more practical than he was political.
Yeah, and also more practical than he was theoretical. To me, he was one of the ultimate, kind of like we talk about Zim, where Zim can use one instrument for one thing. He's not just a musician, he's an activist. We have to be flexible. And I'll tell you, I don't believe in violence, but I believe that sometimes we have no choice. If there are marauders coming into your house, you have to know how to fight. But when you fight, you don't fight out of anger, you fight out of love for your family and your children and the world. But then you try to put it away. Continue. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think, and actually, we were thinking about the idea of like the global outlook. You know, when we said we were going to have this conversation, we're thinking about elections happening all over the world, because it seems like it's like election season globally.
And it's all timed. It's just like sports. It's timed at the right time. It's a scam. But continue.
Yeah. No, there's a whole media agenda around how it's done and how it's being presented and all those things. You know, this idea that in Europe the media is urging everyone to vote against right wing parties or extreme right.
And I laugh because what they call the center party is actually one with the right. Continue. And they call themselves the left. They're not the left. They're not the left. No.
Continue. Yeah. So there's all those conversations happening. You look at what happened in India with their elections. I think
I think he's breaking a little bit.
In India is in the same position as the
ANC, yeah. He's breaking.
He has to call.
Yeah. I think he's breaking, right? Yeah.
It's a network from South Africa, yes.
Yeah, use your speaker so I can hear you, your microphone. Yeah. Okay. So
I guess it's a network from SA. It's quite poor.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. But what he was talking about, we can now pivot to what he was talking about. Yeah. And what I'm seeing now, like the Democratic Party is the established party in America, ANC, and they're all messing up, and they're trying to tell us the other parties are too extreme. You understand? Is Lorato back in? Is he Lorato? You okay?
No, he's not back.
Okay, no problem. Send him a text that we're going to keep him on mute for a few minutes. Yeah. Okay. And then we'll continue talking. Okay.
All right.
And while you're sending him the text, I'll speak. So, Fabi, this is a very brilliant show. We never knew it was going to go this direction at all.
Yes, absolutely.
You never did. So let's talk about what some of the things he was talking. What do you think about? Is there anything you picked up on that you felt were very important? Yeah.
It's just that I feel that it's now that everybody's talking about a
You're still a little bit low in sound. Yeah.
Okay, it's raining actually. I think it's the sound.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, it's not your fault. Yeah.
Voice. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is now that people are talking about the coalition, all those years where ANC was dominating and having it all their way, nobody mentioned coalition. So it's difficult for ANC to find who to coalesce with them because in principle, most of the other parties have a different agenda. For instance, the DA, their agenda is quite different from ANC or even the EFF. I think Lorato is back. Just a minute. So basically, whatever it is that happens, I don't know what ANC's end game is, but it's difficult for them to form the coalition with any of the other parties in South Africa.
You know what I think? I think ANC
really.
Here's what their end game is: to keep power. That's it, just to keep power and to continue with corruption. That's what I believe personally, because it doesn't seem like they have an ideology. Yeah. Even Malema will stick to his ideology and lose votes, and he won't change it. And then what's his name? Ramaphosa said, "We need to come together in South Africa." You didn't say that before when you had power.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Now that they see that they're seeking power, they're looking for excuses. to continue to have the, they just want to keep dipping their hand in the cookie jar, basically. They don't want to see power
That's it. They
getting
want to keep power.
acquired.
But the problem with that is that they're vague. It means that they don't have an ideology, but that's weak for them. You know what they say? You have to stand for something or you will fall.
Yeah,
You have to take a position. In life, you have to take a position. Either I'm going to try to become an IT specialist or I'm going to become an artist and make less money. But I have to make a decision. If I just try to perambulate, then I make no progress and I will fail. So that's
yeah.
why ANC is failing. And if they're not careful, they'll just
And the
become another
issues
wing
that
of the
they're being
DA party.
criticized on, the issues that are being criticized on, they are real issues. Unemployment, corruption, public services are failing. So, and those are
Yeah.
issues that they've not been able to fix. So you can't blame the people for wanting a change.
No. And the only reason they can't fix it is because I think their agenda is purely capitalism and their money is coming from
The West.
corporations. Yeah, the West, but even beyond that, because the world is becoming transnational. Some even Chinese companies and Russian companies, but South Africa is for sale by the ANC. Is Larat? Thank you, Afolabi. This is a very brilliant show. Thank you for you guys making me look bad. You prepared so well. Thank you, Afolabi. Is Larato around? Let him lead us out for the next 2 minutes. Can he?
Lerato,
Is
are
he
you there?
here?
He's visible, but I can't hear him. I think his audio, the problem is with his audio.
Did you take him off of mute? Yeah.
I've taken him off. I've actually taken him off.
Okay, so no problem. So we're going to end, and so I don't mind because we've had a very good show. So what I want to say is that ANC is talking about coalitions, and they don't even know who they want to coalesce with. That means they don't have an agenda. We know EFF has an agenda. I'm not saying that EFF's agenda is good. I'm just saying we know. MF, I think, is in the bigger. MK is in the middle ground. We don't know where they are. And DA, we know what DA's agenda is to continue foreign interests from the West, because all of DA's funding comes from the West.
From the West,
Okay.
yes.
So we want to thank everybody for watching Political Animals, also / African Agenda. Today, it was both. It was supposed to be African Agenda. And I want to thank Falabi, who's our producer, who works very hard. And I want to thank Lorato, who put in a lot of very good work. So we're going to be back probably next week to talk more about politics. And also, why is Europe dominating that we need to watch the European Championships in football? All right. Thank you, Afolabi. See you very soon. We're done.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.